Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be diving into something pretty visually exciting.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about Tkinter, which is a Python library all about building GUIs.
It's a fun one.
And for listeners who aren't familiar with that acronym GUI, that stands
It's
for
the graphical user interface.
exactly those interfaces you see in all your favorite programs with buttons and graphics and
Yeah, all the visual stuff.
all that good stuff. And our deep dive this time around is based on this really in-depth article from plus2net.com. It's a website that's just full of programming tutorials, and they go really deep on this one particular widget in Tkinter called the Canvas widget.
Right, and the canvas is really where all the cool visual stuff comes to life in Tkinter. It's like the blank slate you get to work with.
So it's literally like a canvas that you would paint on, but instead of paint, we're using Python code.
Exactly. You can draw shapes, lines, add images, all with Python code. It's really quite versatile.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And the article kind of walks us through all these different functions, like create text, create line, create a rectangle. It's like they give you the building blocks for making any kind of graphic you can imagine.
And the cool thing is you can even combine those basic building blocks to create even more intricate graphics.
Yeah.
Like they have this example in the article about how you can use the create oval function to make a perfect circle.
Oh, yeah, I remember that example.
Yeah.
It's like they give you the code snippet for it, too, so you can just plug it right into your own program and boom, instant circle.
Exactly. And that right there is a great example of how you can write efficient code by creating these reusable functions. For a task like drawing a circle that you might need to do over and over again, why not create a dedicated create circle function based on create oval? It just makes everything so much smoother.
And you don't have to keep writing the same code over and over again.
Exactly.
I like that. And it's not just limited to, shapes and lines. They talk about using create image to bring in actual images. And they even mention using the Python imaging library, or PIL.
Right. PIL is like the go-to library in Python for anything related to image manipulation. You can open up images, resize them, crop them. You can even apply filters all before you even bring them into the canvas.
So it's like we're not just limited to using the images as they are. We can actually manipulate them within our code to fit our needs for our GUI.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of flexibility in designing your user interface.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And speaking of flexibility, they go into all these customization options you have in Tkinter, like the fill color line width, even if you want your line to be dashed or solid. There are so many possibilities.
Oh, absolutely. And it's those little details that can really make your GUI stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
Add that extra bit of polish.
Yeah, like there was this one option they mentioned called stipple that I'd never even heard of before.
Oh, stipple. Yeah. That one's pretty cool. Basically, it allows you to fill a shape with a pattern instead of just a solid color. So instead of just a plain red rectangle, you could have one that's filled with like a checkerboard pattern or something.
That's so cool. So it's like adding texture to your graphics, but using code.
Exactly. It's a subtle effect, but it can add a lot of visual interest, especially if you're going for a certain look and feel for your GUI.
It's amazing how much you can do with just a few lines of code.
Mm.
And what really surprised me in the article was the part where they talked about using a canvas widget to create a button. I always thought buttons would be like a whole separate thing.
Yeah, it's easy to think that, but the canvas is actually pretty flexible. You can actually attach code to events that happen within the canvas space, like when you click the mouse or move it around.
And that's how they create that button effect, right?
Yeah.
By detecting the mouse clicks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They use those specific events like button press 1 for when the mouse button is clicked and button release 1 for when you release the button.
So when those events happen, you can then trigger changes in the canvas, like changing the color of a shape to make it look like it's being pressed down.
Precisely. It's a really clever way to create these custom buttons that fit seamlessly into your GUI's overall design. You have a lot of control over the look and feel.
That's really cool. The canvas isn't just this static thing anymore. You can actually respond to the user's actions.
Yeah.
But then the article kind of switched gears and started talking about grid layouts. It felt a little like going from the fun creative part to something more like, structured and organized.
Right, but that structure is actually really important. Think about it. You could have the coolest looking button in the world, but if it's just floating randomly on your GUI, nobody's going to know what to do with it.
Yeah, it's like the difference between a doodle and an actual well-designed poster. They can both have cool elements, but the poster has that structure that makes it work.
Exactly. And that's where grid layouts come in. They
Yeah.
give you this framework for organizing all the elements in your GUI using rows and columns.
So it's like having these invisible lines that help you position everything perfectly.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. These grids ensure that everything is aligned and spaced in a way that's both visually appealing and user-friendly. It's all about finding that balance between the free-flowing creativity of the canvas and the structure that a grid layout provides.
It sounds like without those grids, things could get pretty messy pretty quickly.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially as your GUI starts to grow more complex, grid layouts are essential for keeping things organized and making sure that users can actually find and interact with all the different elements you've created.
Grids, it is. Got it. But let's go back to the images for a second. We talked about how PIL, the Python imaging library, comes into play there. What makes it so great for working with images in this context?
Well, PIL is kind of like this all-in-one toolkit for image manipulation within your Python code. Need to resize an image to fit perfectly on your canvas? PIL can handle that. Want to crop an image to focus on a specific area? PIL's got you covered. You can even apply filters and effects to your images, all with PIL.
So it's not just about adding images. It's about having the power to manipulate those images to fit our exact needs.
Exactly. And that level of control is really invaluable when you're trying to create a visually stunning and dynamic user interface. It just opens up so many more possibilities.
Okay, so let me just recap here. We've got the canvas as our workspace. We've got all these functions for drawing shapes and lines. We can bring in images, manipulate them, and then organize everything neatly with these grid layouts. It's like we're building up to something pretty big here.
We are. It's all starting to come together.
It's like we've opened up this whole toolkit for building GUIs, right? We've got the canvas as our workspace, all those functions to draw shapes and lines. We can bring in images, tweak them, and then the grid layout keeps everything nice and tidy. But you know what's really sticking with me? It's that idea of making the canvas interactive. It's not just about displaying stuff. It's about responding to what the user does.
And that's where things get really interesting. Remember that example from the article about building a button, just using those button press 1 and button release 1 events? That same idea can be applied to so much more than just buttons.
Yeah, that really blew my mind. It just clicked for me how, by detecting those mouse clicks, we can make something that looks and feels like a button without actually using a pre-made button object.
Precisely, and that's the beauty of the canvas. With a little bit of code, you can transform almost anything you draw, whether it's a shape, an image, or even just a line, into an interactive element.
So wait, instead of just clicking a button, I could click like a circle on the canvas, and that could make something happen.
Absolutely. Imagine you're building a simple game on the canvas. You could have circles that represent targets, and when the player clicks on a target, it could trigger an animation or add points to their score. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Wow. Okay, my mind is officially blown. I'm starting to see how people create those online drawing tools or those interactive data visualizations that we see all over the place. It's all built on these Tkinter fundamentals.
That's exactly it. Once you grasp the core concepts of Tkinter and the Canvas widget, a whole world of possibilities really does open up. And the best part is you can start small and gradually build your skills as you go.
That's good to hear. Because I think a lot of people, myself included, hear GUI programming and think, oh no, that's way too complicated for me. But this deep dive has really broken it down into manageable chunks.
It really has. We've gone from zero to understanding the fundamentals of Tkinter's Canvas widget in just one conversation.
We really have. From basic shapes to adding and manipulating images with PIL to making things interactive and keeping it all organized with grid layouts, we've covered a ton of ground.
We have, but don't let that intimidate you. Even the most complex GUIs are built upon these same fundamental concepts. The key is to just dive in, experiment, explore the documentation, and most importantly, have fun with it.
I love that. Have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, coding, especially when it's something visual like this, should be enjoyable.
Couldn't agree more. It's about bringing your ideas to life one line of code at a time.
So to anyone listening who's ever thought about building their own GUI, even if it's just a simple tool for your own personal use, give Tkinter a shot. You might be amazed at what you can create.
Absolutely. And remember that Canvas widget is your creative playground. Don't be afraid to experiment, push the boundaries, and see what you can come up with.
That's the perfect note to end on. This deep dive has given us all a lot to think about, and hopefully a little inspiration to start building our own GUI creations with at Tkinter. Until next time.